Patriots fans, the NFL draft of 2022 is less than 1 month away. DeVante Parker is now a Patriot, and there's an awful lot to talk about in Foxborough. I'm Mike Debate, and you are about to be locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful, and thank you for once again making Locked On Patriots your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On Patriots is free and available on all platforms. I'm your host, Mike Debate. I cover your New England Patriots for Patriots Country of Sports Illustrated of Fan Nation. I am also your host of the Locked On Patriots podcast, which, of course, is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And folks, because it's your team every day, that means your questions, comments, and feedback are always welcomed. Very much appreciated. Reach out to me, interact with me, let me know what's on your mind on Twitter at MDABATENFL. And while you're out there showing some weekend love to that Twitterverse, please be sure to follow the Locked On Patriots account as well at LO_Patriots. Pats fans, it's been a busy weekend in Foxborough. DeVante Parker, no longer a Miami Dolphin. He is a New England Patriot. What does it mean for the New England Patriots wide receivers core? What does it mean for their strategy in the draft? Well, we're going to be talking some draft today here on the pod. And luckily for us, we've got one of the best and brightest stars in sports media, Patriots media, anywhere that's been doing an amazing job covering the draft. I'm not just saying that because he's a colleague of mine, folks. I am absolutely 100% sure when I tell you that you will not find finer draft coverage, anywhere in the civilized world. He is my good friend, a columnist and analyst extraordinaire of Patriots Country, of Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation. My good friend, Kevin Tame Jr. joins me today here on the pod. Kevin, welcome to Locked On Patriots. Thanks for joining me here today, buddy.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor, my friend. Absolute honor.
Well, the honor is all mine, bud, and this is one I've been waiting for quite a while. Folks, if you haven't had the opportunity to do so, please go check out Patriots Country, rebranded, formerly Patriots Maven, now Patriots Country, on Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation site. Kevin has been doing an amazing job profiling several potential Patriots fits for the draft. He is also providing, in my opinion, the best local draft coverage that you'll find anywhere. So many hidden gems in this draft coming from the New England area. Kevin has had the opportunity not only to profile them, but also speak to the one-on-one. So, folks, if you haven't done so, do it. Check it out right now. You will not be disappointed. You'll become a better football fan, and you'll definitely be better prepared for the NFL draft. But, Kev, before we get into the draft, because we are going to talk some draft today, my friend, DeVante Parker, this sent scintillating shockwaves through the New England region on Saturday. Not a lot of people expected this one. The intra-divisional nature of this trade was a little bit surprising. I think it caught some people off guard. The Patriots surrender a third-round pick in 2023. They get back Parker and a fifth-rounder in this upcoming draft in 2022, which could have implications for what the Patriots might be willing to do heading into the draft. But let's talk Parker for just a second, because I know you have your finger on the pulse of this franchise as well as anyone that I know. This one, to me, makes sense to a certain extent. I like the addition of Parker. I think there's definitely a lot of athleticism. He provides that vertical presence on the perimeter that the Patriots have been looking for. He can win his matchups on the outside. He can win them down the field. Has had some issues creating separation lately, mostly because of the injury problems that he's had, which forced him to miss a few games last season, only suited up for 10 games in 2021. But at the same time, there is a lot of upside here. What was your reaction to the Parker trade in terms of value coming back to New England, what they had to give up to get him, and what do you think this means for the Patriots wide receivers core?
Well, my first reaction, like most people, was like, wait, what? Who?
It was.
In my mind, the Patriots were probably going to go for like the older veteran receiver. Like
Mm-hmm.
I wrote about AJ Green as a possibility. If you think back to a few years ago, they brought guys in, Eric Decker, Demaryius Thomas, different veterans that had good careers, but then towards the end, they come to the Patriots, they get that tryout in training camp and just see what's left. So that's what I expected. So to see a guy like DeVante Parker get traded here was like, okay. I mean, he's 29. I think he has something in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
I find it fascinating that he was actually drafted the same year as Nelson Aguilar. They're
Mm-hmm.
like 5 picks apart.
Yeah.
So if you really think about it, this team could have 2 first-round wide receivers on offense this season, which the average fan has been questioning the receiving situation. So that's one positive way to look at it. But like you just said, a negative could be the injuries. He has had the shoulder problems, the concussion, the hamstring,
Mm-hmm.
kind of nagging here and there. But if he stays healthy, I think it's a good trade. I really do.
Yeah, I agree with you. And look, there's no question about it that DeVante is someone that has given the Patriots fits before. He's had a couple of 100-yard games against them. We know very well in terms of clinching games, big games that Miami wanted to play spoiler for New England. He really helped them do that on a couple of occasions. I believe was the either the 2015, 2016 game where he ended up being a huge factor in that game to help the Miami Dolphins win that one. And then 2019, Tom Brady's final regular season game in New England really made that one memorable for all the wrong reasons, torching Stephon Gilmore for over 100 yards, 137 yards, as a matter of fact. So this is a guy that definitely knows how to play against the Patriots. And you know as well as I do, Bill Belichick loves to bring these guys in, people that are problems for him in the past. He doesn't want to have to game plan for these guys any longer. He wants to bring them in, make them a part of the New England Patriots. So I think there is a shot for him to be able to do something special here in New England. If he can stay healthy, he definitely has the hands. He's got the ability to do it. If he is healthier and he has gotten past those hamstring issues, I think that'll go a long way in shoring up some of the problems he's had with creating separation, because that seems to be the knock on him right now. Fans that are not too happy with the trade are saying, well, he's got to get open. I think he will be able to if he has the right quarterback leading him, first of all, and I think Mac Jones is going to be that guy. But second of all, I also think that he has to do a good job of rehabbing, getting healthy, and coming in here ready to work. And I think if he does that, DeVante Parker is going to be someone that Patriots fans are going to enjoy watching this season. Kevin, when it comes to Parker's impact on the wide receivers core, before we get into potential Patriots down the line and what that may mean for their plans now heading into the draft, the name N'Keal Harry keeps coming up, and you and I have had discussions on N'Keal several times. I've been called a N'Keal Harry apologist, but if you read my weekend piece, my Sunday Journal piece, where I basically ran down the entire gauntlet of what the Patriots have now in terms of their wide receiver arsenal, you can see that I've kind of played my final hand when it comes to being a N'Keal Harry apologist. It really is very difficult to envision him in a uniform for much longer here in New England. I know you mentioned Aguilar earlier. Which receiver really benefits mostly from having Parker here now in New England? Do you think it's Jacoby Myers, so that way it takes pressure off of him to be that surefire yards after the catch? Because that's not really Jacoby's style. Or is there a situation where it really just kind of spells the end of a guy like Aguilar or Harry here in New England?
I think it's two things. It could certainly spell the end of a Harry, but I also think someone like Parker that could be a deep threat, stretch the field, and open things underneath.
Mm-hmm.
It could help a guy like Myers underneath. It could help the tight ends,
Good
even
point.
a James White. Any one of those guys may have a better opportunity to have some success, because if you think back to last season, well, actually the past couple of seasons, who was the Patriots' deep threat? There was not a defense out there that was scared, like, oh, we got to count this guy. Nobody. Now, all of a sudden, you think back to the Randy Moss days. Obviously, he's not on this team, and nobody's at that caliber. But if you have a guy that can get deep down the field, draw a safety, all of a sudden teams are going further back, and it's opening up
Right.
front. So, like I said, I think it's a combination, right? A combo deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I think that's such a good point about really kind of blending the best of both worlds in terms of what Parker can bring. And again, I think this is definitely a good move for the Patriots in terms of shoring up their wide receiver core. Is it the final move that they'll make this offseason? I don't think so. I think there's still more to come. And does that mean more free agents, or does that mean dipping into the draft? Well, folks, you've been waiting for it, and that's exactly what we're going to do in just a moment. Our resident draft guru here is going to give his opinion on who might be the best potential Patriots fits, both on defense and on offense. And we're going to discuss that in just a moment here on Locked On Patriots. But first, folks, you all know this is a great time to be a football fan. It's a great time to be a sports fan in general. You want to talk about action. College basketball's big game is coming up. You've got Major League Baseball ready to start. You've got NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, so much going on. For all the latest odds, contests, player props, BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your sports betting needs and information. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, your podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just the main sports, folks. It's your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and even your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Patriots fans, once again, I am joined here by my colleague of Patriot Country, of Sports Illustrated, the great Kevin Tame Jr. joins me today. And Kevin, we talked a little bit about DeVante Parker in the first segment, but ultimately, I think the biggest impact that the Patriots are going to make this offseason is going to be through the draft. This is a stacked draft in areas where the Patriots need help the most, whether it be at the linebacker position, whether it be a cornerback, whether it be offensive line at guard, even including wide receiver we just talked about a few moments ago. These are some of the positions of need. They say defense wins championships. We'll start on the defensive side of the ball, my friend. You have done some amazing work for SI Patriots in terms of breaking down not just good prospects for the NFL, but I think you've really done as good, if not better than anyone else I've read in terms of being able to identify who might be the best potential Patriots fits in Foxborough. In terms of defense, I know the big needs are cornerback and linebacker. Those are the two big positions, the glamour positions that people are looking at. But I leave it to you. Who are some of the best potential Patriots that you've seen in terms of your coverage of the draft so far heading into the end of this month?
Well, I've been on the Kyer Elam train since about February. Nobody wanted to hear it. Everybody kind of just laughed at it or rolled their eyes like, Kyer Elam. But in my mind, just his body frame, his play style, the fact he's from Florida, that system, SEC player, everything about that just screams Bill Belichick. And I think what you're going to lose from J.C. Jackson in terms of playmaking ability and just some speed at corner, he could replace. So I think the question is he a first-round talent? Is he a day two guy? He could slip to day two, but he was phenomenal at the combine. Everybody was head over heels. He had a great pro day. So he may have worked his way back up to round one, but then it's a matter of what does Belichick view as like the most important thing? Me and you could sit here right now and say, cornerback, linebacker, oh, they need this. And then here comes Bill. He drafts a center, a guard. that's what Bill does.
Yeah. Rutgers usually is that's usually Rutgers or Bama. That's usually pretty safe.
That's true. That's true. Yep. But if we're going cornerback, that's been my guy all along. I'm going to stick to it. I feel like if you watch any of his highlights or any of his game film, he just he has his knack. He's quick. He actually turns for the ball, so they're not going to throw the flag for pass interference. And he's always breaking up passes.
Yeah.
To me, that's huge, especially with the way the AFC has so many good receivers now. They're all loaded up.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, I love Elam, and one of the big reasons why I really have become such a fan of his, especially in this system, is because of the analysis that you've provided and reading a lot of what you wrote, a lot of the offline conversations that we've had for SI. You've mentioned the great fit that he is. And look, I know a lot of people were saying that the signing of Malcolm Butler kind of signaled that the Patriots are going to be moving into more of a zone team. That seems to be the common consensus in bringing in someone like Malcolm, because that's where his strength is. He's a very good zone corner. But it doesn't necessarily mean that's where the Patriots are going to go. They can employ a guy that gives them the opportunity to be a zone team. But if you have the opportunity to get a guy like Elam who can be that next level corner, and someone as a rookie who you can now bring on maybe a little bit slower, maybe give him an opportunity to round into that alpha role that I think he can play. He is an alpha corner. I mean, there's no question about it. This kid's tough. He's got bravado. He's got a lot of skill set when it comes to man coverage. This to me would be a no-brainer if he's there. And I know a lot of people are going to probably roll their eyes a little bit, but believe me when I tell you, Kevin is definitely onto something. Go ahead and read his piece on Elam, one of the better pieces that I've read in draft coverage, because of the fact that he's outlining exactly where this kid can be effective for the New England Patriots. And if you want a like for like, well, I shouldn't say like for like, that's really not fair to Elam. It really isn't. But if you want someone that can come in and try to fill the shoes eventually of a JC Jackson, this kid is it. In terms of the bravado as well, wouldn't surprise me to see in another 2 or 3 years, if this kid's in a Patriots uniform, if he's looking to name his own island. I think that this is something that, he might be definitely on the hook to do. So great stuff on Elam, Kev. If the Patriots are going to look front seven, I know you've had your eye on a lot of different guys. You've profiled quite a few of them for SI. Who catches your sharp eye in terms of a potential Patriots fit on the front seven?
I mean, Jordan Davis, that guy is going to be a beast. He is a large human being. But in all seriousness, I said this back when I was talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't get out of my head the size of that guy. He's like a Ford F-350 in a small parking lot. Like, he's just a massive dude.
Yeah,
so
he really is.
You put him next to him, Christian Barmore. That run defense is going to be great. Oh,
absolutely.
God.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that, very shortly, Kevin has a great piece coming up for Patriots Country at Sports Illustrated about pairing Jordan Davis and Christian Barmore, and the type of fear that may put into opposing offenses. It would look great. And Bill Belichick would be salivating at something like that. Davis's performance at the Combine may price him out of 21. We're not completely sure if he's going to be there, but Kev, we're seeing a lot of mock drafts that are showing that maybe he will be there, that teams' needs are really kind of getting very, they're getting different. In other words, I mean, they're changing by the moment because of the landscape, the moves that other teams are making. All of a sudden now the Patriots find themselves maybe in need for a little bit even more speed on the defensive side of the ball with some of the fast offenses they're going to be facing. But a guy like Jordan Davis is tremendous, and I like him as well. So folks, again, continue to follow Kevin and the great work that he's doing in terms of draft outlines. And he's told you about the cornerback position. He's told you about the front seven, but I know you're clamoring for some offensive talk, and we're going to give that to you folks in just a moment as Kevin Tame Jr. of Sports Illustrated gives us his thoughts on potential Patriots fits, optimal Patriots fits for the new Pats offense. But first, the draft is less than a month away, but we're also in the middle, or we're getting toward the middle of that period in the year where springtime is starting to spring here in New England. I know the weather's still a little bit cold, but right now, this is the perfect opportunity for you to get yourself in shape, but also get your ride in shape. Yeah, it's been a long winter for that car that's sitting outside, especially for the ones like mine that don't get a chance to sit in a garage. When you want to make improvements to your ride for the upcoming spring and summer months, visit my good friends over at rockauto.com. You save both time and money when using rockauto.com. Why should you choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership? RockAuto.com is a family business, and they've been serving do-it-yourselfers just like me for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are relatively low, reliably low for every customer. You don't have to be an insider to get their prices. Anybody can do it by using rockauto.com. Then they have everything that you need, folks, from brake parts to tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Whether it's for your daily driver or a car that you take out for special occasions, rockauto.com can get it in the optimum condition for the upcoming spring and summer months. Go to their easy-to-explore website and use it today to find the solution for all of your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now, see the parts available for your car or truck, and don't forget to write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selections, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Patriots fans, it has been a blast here today on Locked On Patriots, talking to my good friend and colleague, Kevin Tame of Patriots Country of Sports Illustrated. Follow him on the Bird app at Kevin_Tame. He has done a tremendous job outlining potential Patriots coming up in the draft. He's even given us his wisdom and counsel on DeVante Parker. The man can do it all. Just follow him and you'll be a better football fan. I promise you that. Kev, you've definitely enlightened us in terms of what we should be looking out for when it comes to the upcoming 2022 NFL draft on the defensive side of the ball. I think if the Patriots are going to make a splash, it's going to be a corner or it's going to be one of the big name defenders. You mentioned Jordan Davis. You mentioned Kyer Elam. These are players that could make an impact on the New England Patriots. But we've heard a lot of the fan base clamoring for a big-time wideout with that number 21 pick. We've heard Jameson Williams. We've heard Chris Olave. I've gone over and over on Chris and his route running ability and how I'd love to see him in a New England Patriots uniform. There's a lot of guys that the Patriots would like to see here. We've heard Jahan Dotson coming from, Penn State. A lot of different players that the Patriots fans have had their eye on. But DeVante Parker's acquisition kind of made me hesitate a little bit about whether or not the Patriots are going to be willing now to spend first-round draft capital on a wideout when they've got holes at offensive guard. They've got holes at cornerback. They've got holes at defense. There's a lot of areas that needed to be filled on this team, and maybe now wide receiver might not be one of them. But you do a better job, like I said, of being able to identify what the Patriots need based on their in the moment, basically what they're going to need at this time. Based on what you now know from the Parker trade, have your thoughts changed at all about what the Patriots may do in this upcoming draft? And if so, or if not, how do you see them approaching the offensive side of the ball when it comes to this month's draft?
My thoughts have changed. See, we're talking 2, 3, more, because like you mentioned earlier, this is a deep draft in a lot of positions. Thanks to COVID, everybody got that extra year of eligibility. So you can find some top talent later on. It doesn't have to be the first round. So I know I'm supposed to sit here and talk about John Mechie. Everybody, you could go to the grocery store, the gas station, go to the bar, drink some beers with your friends, and people are like, "Oh, John Mechie," and I get it. He's a good player. He's a good player. He is, but I kind of look other directions with the mindset of, was Bill going to do that? We want that, but does Bill? So I have a name from a big-time school. Probably not round 1, but if Bill can somehow get him round 2, or maybe even trade up a couple slots to get him, and that's a kid out of Georgia, George Pickens.
Ooh,
he can play. He really can.
He can.
I kind of look at him like, okay, 6'3", $195. He plays with some good physicality. I don't want to say this because I make fun of N'Keal Harry, but Pickens is a good blocking receiver.
Don't let that sour you on blocking receivers. That's a good trait to have if you're a Patriot.
It's a good trait, but it drives me nuts when people try so hard to defend Harry. It's like, Oh, he's a blocker. I'm like, in the first round? Like, get that kid at Walmart.
I've done it. I've done it. Believe me, it's not an easy battle. I've died on that hill several times. Very, very ugly, but
But
I've tried to carry the load. But I agree with you. I do in a lot of respects. I do.
but with Pickens, the kid can fly. He ran like a 4.47. So he can do a lot of things that DeVante Parker is going to do. But obviously, he's got to be like 5, 6 years younger. So it could be one of those things where it's a little more long term.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you see Bill taking a wide receiver and just throwing him out there? I don't. It might take a year. It might be like, all right, some snaps here and there. So maybe by like 2023, he starts to shine, or even further out. But someone like Pickens, to me, that would be a solid pick.
I like Pickens, and again, a lot of the prowess that I've developed in terms of, or I should say, a lot of the knowledge, not prowess. That's a little bit arrogant, folks, and I didn't mean it that way. A lot of the knowledge that I've amassed when it comes to Georgia has been from this man right here. But also, I want to give a shout out to my guy, Andrew Caraway, at Caraway6, who does a lot of mock draft submissions here on Locked On Patriots. Andrew is a Georgia guy, and he absolutely loves his Bulldogs and sends me stuff all the time. Check this guy out. Check that guy out. Pickens is one of the guys that he's been definitely telling me to check out for a while. And the thing that makes me not be so reticent to compare him to Harry is that I think in a lot of ways, this kid is a much superior route runner, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, I really love the way he attacks leverage and man coverage. This is something that N'Keal, for any reason, N'Keal did this in Arizona State. That's what, kind of drives me crazy sometimes about this is I saw so much potential in his college film, but it just hasn't translated here to New England. Maybe it's a fit thing. Maybe it's just the pros, but whatever. You know what? We're going to talk about the future. We're not going to dwell on the past. And if the Patriots do decide to go with someone like Pickens here, that could be a good move for them because, again, I think he has the ability to run that route tree, but he also shows the ability to track the ball through the air. I like that. He can follow it. He's not going to get lost in the pass, and he can go up and make that contested catch. And that, to me, could make him a very good fit here in Foxborough.
Even in the red zone. Big time in the red zone.
Absolutely. Good point. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because if there's one thing that this team consistently does struggle, they did a better job of it in 2021, but still not enough. They're still not attacking the red zone the way they need to. To me, I think guys like Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry stepping up this year, maybe getting Jacoby Myers more involved, but maybe having that young wide receiver that can be a red zone threat will help to take a lot of pressure off of those guys. Kev, before I let you go here today, guard seems to be the position of the day for those in the know. When you talk about, potential Patriots that could end up being a fit here in New England through the draft. Offensive line is always something that Bill keeps a sharp eye on. I know there's a groundswell now that Bill may be looking at offensive lineman possibly to fill that void in the first round of the NFL draft. I still think that's going to be too early. I don't want to panic the crowd here that's listening to this. But is there anybody right now that you're tracking along the offensive line that not necessarily like an impact, like it could be, but somebody even like in the middle rounds or anything? Is there anybody that you're looking at right now on the offensive line that you say, you know what, this kid really could be a good potential Patriot here?
I think Cole Strange could be a solid pick. So he's got that versatility. He moves all over the line, a little bit center, a little bit guard, a little bit tackle, wherever they need him. He tested real well. And he's not from like a big school. And we both know that if there's any coach or GM out there that's going to find that player from a smaller school, it's Belichick.
Right.
So I could see if the things fall into place, I could see Cole Strange getting an opportunity, getting drafted here. And it'd be a good pick.
Yeah, I think it would be a good pick too. Look, I mean, this kid's got he's got good power. He's got the ability to work all over he projects on the interior. There's, a time where he could slot out into a tackle if he needed to play a swing role. But naturally, a kid like this coming in from Chattanooga, he's going to be an interior. And that's, I think, what the Patriots are looking for in terms of swing reserve linemen. They love guys that are versatile. David Andrews is not getting any younger. I love David. I hope he plays here as long as he possibly can, and what he's been through and giving him the opportunity to come back from a horrific injury just a few years ago and still continue to be a captain. I love David to death, and he's one of my favorite players to cover here in New England. But you have to be realistic, and you have to start looking at the fact that these guys are going to start getting older, and you're going to need guys that can slot in. And Ted Karras last year helped to fill a lot of voids on this team. He was a backup center if Andrews went down, played that position. He slotted in and played a phenomenal left guard, and it parlayed him into a great contract with the Cincinnati Bengals. So you don't have Teddy this year. And who are you going to bring in that's going to be able to be versatile enough? Justin Herron, I think, is a solid reserve guy, but he's primarily a tackle. He's not going to be a good guard. He really doesn't play center. Yanni just hasn't really rounded into the player we all thought he could be when they drafted him. So I like Strange, and I think he's going to be a good fit. I think he definitely can be someone that the Patriots will keep an eye on. And again, folks, this is the type of draft coverage that you can count on only from Kevin Tame Jr. at Sports Illustrated. Patriots Country, definitely check out his stuff. And his appearance here on Locked On today has definitely told you why. He's got his eye on guys that not necessarily are the media darlings, but they're people that will end up being potential good Patriot fits. And at the end of the day, that's exactly what Bill Belichick does. He dances to the beat of his own drum. And who knows? I think he might have a sharp eye on what Kevin's doing. I think he's got some of those draft profiles hidden somewhere at the offices at one Patriots place.
Boy, I hope so.
We'll definitely see. When we're there this summer covering training camp, we'll take a look and see if we can find what we can find. But all kidding aside, folks, he is Kevin Tame Jr. He is my colleague. He is my good friend, but he is a great draft analyst and a phenomenal Patriots analyst. So please, by all means, follow him on the Bird app, as my good friend and predecessor Mark Schofield would say, at Kevin_Tame. Follow all of his great work at Patriots Country now, folks. No longer Patriots Maven. We are Patriots Country at Sports Illustrated, powered by Fan Nation. Kev, before I let you go today, please let all of our fans know, we've told them where they can find you, but please let all of our fans know what they can expect in the coming days and weeks leading up to the NFL draft from the great pen of Kevin Tame Jr.
So leading up to the draft, I've lined up a couple more local prospect interviews. Kobe Tippett out of URI. He's a fascinating prospect, not even because of his father, Andre, but that's obviously awesome. But the dude can fly, great kid, a lot of potential. I actually went to his pro day at Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
So I got some interviews coming up. I'll keep banging out these prospect profiles. I mean, what is it now? April 3rd?
Mm-hmm.
We're already a couple weeks away. So,
yep.
As you said, follow me at Kevin_Tame. And real quick, I do want to give one shout out. Our good friend and colleague, Arnav, he put out an article on Drake London, wide receiver out of USC. I thought about it, but I don't want to steal his thunder. But that kid can play as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I keep hearing Nikhil 2.0 when it comes to Drake London. Folks, definitely check out Arnav's piece and check out some of the film that you can. His stuff is out on YouTube. You can check out, the fans can check out stuff. While you're checking out us on YouTube right afterwards, Google the name and definitely take a look at some of what he can do and what he has done at USC. Great young prospect. Who knows? Maybe a future potential Patriot. Kev, thank you so much for shouting out our good friend and colleague, Arnav Sharma. You can follow him on Twitter at Arnav Sharma NFL. Definitely another great prospect analyst for you in terms of the great coverage that we love to try to provide at Patriots Country of Sports Illustrated, especially coming from Fan Nation. Kev, what can I say? We thank you so much for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. We had so much fun. We're definitely going to do this again before the draft because you're going to need more Kevin's wisdom and counsel as the draft approaches on April 28th. In the meantime, folks, thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. And of course, always making it your first listen every day. Follow the Locked On Patriots account and definitely download, subscribe to, and follow the Locked On Patriots podcast on platforms such as Spotify, the Odyssey app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Stay locked into Locked On Patriots. And check us out on YouTube. Smash that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I'm Micah Debate. I thank my good friend Kevin Tame of Sports Illustrated for his time, his insight, and his wisdom and counsel on today's pod. But again, I thank you for joining us here today. Until tomorrow, Foxborough faithful, stay safe, stay well, be the change that you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone.